أصحاب المعالي، أصحاب السعادة.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you again for the second day of the private sector forum. So I would like to draw your attention to the fact that there is a simultaneous interpretation in French, Arabic, and English. You can use the headphones available. Now we are going to attend the agreements and signing with regard to the SMEs in Saudi Arabia, with also the CMS in the Arab Republic of Egypt. Today we are going to attend the signature of the value of 25 million dinars for the Bank of Cairo. So also the CFC in regard of the export and import in Saudi towards Cairo. So the CEO of the International Institution for Export and the director of the Bank Export and Import Bank, they are welcome.
كما ذكرنا تهدف هذه الاتفاقية.
As we have said, those agreements to provide in export and import for the SME companies and to expand their activities in Egypt and the exportation of non-oil products to the Egyptian markets.
شكرا. نرجو التفضل
Thank you. Please stay on the theater.
نرجو من معاليكم
We ask you to be here on the rostrum in order to send the second agreement. As for the second agreement, honorable participants, it being the International Institution for the Development, for the Promotion of Trade and Cairo, Egypt, Al-Qahira, Cairo. We invite the CEO from Operations, the IFG, and Mr. Ahmed Khattab, the head of the financial sectors, Cairo, Bank Al-Qahira, Al-Qahira Bank.
الاتفاقية الثانية بين
The second agreement with the Islamic Development for the Development of Trade and Al-Qahira Bank.
ألف مبروك وبالتوفيق.
Congratulations, wishing you every success. Now it comes the time for the family picture.
صورة جماعية.
Picture for all parties of the agreement signed. It's a collective picture. a very important picture in order to certify the signature of very important agreements that we have witnessed today. We realize that the SMEs have a great economic role in the kingdom. It reinforces the economic development and provide work opportunities. Those are the objectives for a better perception of the Kingdom 2030. Honorable participants, the next meeting will discuss this matter under the title, The Role. We invite Angeline Nasser Bekir, the Director of ITFC, in order to thankfully moderate the meeting.
Assalamu alaikum.
Peace and blessings of Allah, Your Excellencies. Good afternoon.
In Arabic, and as was mentioned earlier, that we have translation available, so you can reach out to your headsets. First channel is Arabic, second English, and third French. So if you allow me, I will switch back to Arabic.
Good afternoon, and as mentioned by Sister Tagrid, we thank her for the introduction of the efforts she is exerting with us in the forum of the private sector. This sector of SMEs is considered to be one of the most important effective elements in the economy of any country. And our meeting today deals with the pivot of SMEs as part of the Kingdom's Vision 2030. Speaking of that matter, we have a number of elite specialities in that field, whether it be at the local or the regional or international levels. And for this reason, it is an honor for me to invite their excellencies, the participants in that meeting, to come to the rostrum. We start with His Excellency, Engineer Saad Al Khait, the CEO of Export-Import Saudi Bank. You have the floor, sir. Followed by Engineer Hani Salim Sompel, the SEO of the International Islamic Institution for the Promotion of Trade and the Deputy SEO for the private sector. He is also followed by Mr. Sami Ibn Ibrahim Al-Husseini, the governor of the Higher Organization for SMEs, Chad. And lastly, Dr. Nasser Al-Qahtan, the SEO of the program of Arab Gulf for Development, Arab Gulf. As we have mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, the sector of the SMEs is considered to be one of the most important sectors, and perhaps it is the most important because it pivotally contributes in the total GPT. And this is different between the very developed countries and their markets, and their contribution at the local level reaches about 60%, and this compared to the developed countries who are trying to increase that percentage, which ranges between 40 to 50%. In addition to all this, the SMEs also have a very pivotal role in relation to the different technologies, because they contribute in the field of development, innovation, and the development also of that modern technology. That percentage differs among the different developed countries and developing ones. The developed countries have about 60 to 70% of contribution in the field of innovation and development, and in the developing countries between 30 to 40%. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is not in isolation from the rest of the world, and stemming from that very ambitious vision of the Kingdom 2030, led by the Crown Prince, the head of the Prime Minister. The vision gave special attention to the development of the sector of the SMEs, and many new elements were introduced, including the contribution of the SMEs in the total GDP from 20% at the present time to 35% now. We will deal with all those matters with further details through a dialogue with Her Excellencies and other participants in this meeting. We will start our question directed to His Excellency Engineer Saad Al-Kharji. In the light of this ambitious vision, the Kingdom's Vision 2030, how does the Export-Import Saudi Bank looks at this SME in order to diversify the national economy, and what are the basic factors that reinforce its role as the good tributary economically? May the peace and blessings of Abad, and thank you, my brother Nasser, and thank you for hosting us, and thank you to the ISDB and ICSU for their hosting us. We congratulate them for the Golden Jubilee after 50 years, and we hope for another 50 years in the future with a lot of achievements that we celebrate with the will of God. Engineer Nasser, all you have mentioned is that those SMEs or those very small institutions are one of the very important tributary for any economy, locally or internationally. And in some developed countries, they contribute by 90%, an average of 90%, and between 30 to 60% at the of the 2030, as you have mentioned, in our countries. And this is of great importance for our economy for two basic reasons. The first one is that the capability, the quick and rapid capability for development and progress, and secondly, the employment opportunities in the economy. Those two reasons make it one of the very important bases of the local GPT of any country. The objective, 35%, and I tell you that the last figures that we have reached 29%, and the figure 35% would be before coming to 2030 and even more. We have a lot of visions. The Saudi Bank for Export and Import supports the propagation of the SMEs at the international level, in addition to the establishment of a bank for the SMEs, SME Bank. After the Export-Import Bank, it was established after 2 years of the establishment of that bank, and it is to finance and then support those institutions to develop and grow with the will of God. Thank you, Your Excellency. We have witnessed, before we started that meeting, the signing of two agreements as part of the program of the enabling of the SMEs for export. The question is directed to Mr. Hani Sumbal. Can you provide us with the different opportunities provided with the program, that is the enabling of the SMEs to be able to export here in the kingdom, and what is provided by this program to those institutions? First of all, I grasp that opportunity to extend my gratitude to all of you for allowing us to participate in this very important event, that is the Golden Jubilee of the establishment of this very important edifice, an international financial edifice, the ISDB. A day that we really appreciate, and we feel with every pride that we belong to this edifice, and we extend our gratitude to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which has supported that very important edifice until the present date and supported its activities. It is difficult for me to speak about those matters with the presence of those experts in that very important field, that is the SME field. As you have noticed, and as Dr. Saad has mentioned, today we cannot have an economy that is clear or free of a very important sector of that society. As which has reached 90% of any economic fabric in the developed countries, represented by the SMEs. Hence, we might have to find also the means in order to enable those institutions to develop and grow and help economy in a general manner, particularly when there is a clear vision like the internal domestic vision that we have in the Kingdom 2030, led by the Crown Prince. That vision specifies actually to all the vital sectors in the Kingdom, has specified objectives and targets that are quite clear, and it is a source of pride that we have found many of those objectives and targets have been realized before 2030. And perhaps we will be able to complete our ambitions before 2030, and this is the source of pride for us. The part for the SMEs share is to contribute actually in the local production and also contribute to something very important, is the diversification of the economy. If those companies are able, as a matter of fact, to carry out their operations successfully and export to the outside world and contribute to the GPT locally, I think this would be a matter of importance and a necessity as well. For this reason, institutions such as the ISDB Group or the Islamic Institution for Development of Trade and the Development of the Private Sector, it was necessary to take that matter and give it a priority. We are aware that there were a lot of hopes and challenges facing those SMEs, resorting to the companies and to find the finances in and other matters as well. But those matters need financing and also need, as a matter of fact, many of the matters that would allow that sector to carry out its role. As a matter of fact, we used to focus on the financing of the big programs or the needs of the countries with wide needs, but we found out that this is a matter that should change. We started to prepare and organize and to design programs for the support of those SMEs. And we started also at the outset to provide financing rules for those institutions which are unable to absorb the financing. This is not the problem, but the problem is in the capabilities of those institutions and in the governance of those SMEs and the administration and management of those institutions. We should have programs that would enable them to carry out their programs. We designed a lot of programs, but our efforts in the Kingdom have realized that the best partners for us in that program is, of course, the Saudi Fund for Export and Import, and they have the same objectives and targets. For the SMEs, as I've said yesterday, that was a very great role that was undertaken. And when we look at the programs, and when I visited Riyadh previously, that program, we have found that what was provided for that sector of the economy of the Kingdom is very big, and we have seen the results as well. We have also found out that the Saudi Bank for Export and Import, despite the short life of that bank, but its achievements are quite great. We have found that the best partners in addition to the experiences we have had for that institution, we find the IDFC, for instance. We find out how can we direct our experience and our potentials and capabilities and knowledge to have an integrated program that would help those institutions for the support of the program of the Kingdom in order to allow the SMEs to be able to export. And we had an agreement that is a blessed one. We have started to implement those programs directly, and the future will be larger and better. But I'm confident that this is to continue in meeting and filling the gaps so that we'll be able to render services for those institutions. This is what I wanted to say. Thank you for Engineer Hani. And
thank you very much. It seems that the month of April is full of prediction because an agreement has been signed by these banks, and now in this month of April we are witnessing new agreements. So I would like to ask these SMEs receive great attention from you. So these also SMEs have a very important missions to accomplish. So, Your Excellency, can you shed light on the ways in order to facilitate the work of these SMEs? Assalamu alaikum. I would like to thank you all for your attendance to this session organized by. I would like to thank them for organization of this event. We support those who are working in the SMEs, and so we support them since the stage of the idea before the development of these SMEs, and we are supporting the electronic and technological development of these SMEs, and we also assist the second stage of this project. We have specialized platforms for these SMEs, and we are in the Tribune, we are giving 50% for the medical insurance for the SMEs. Also, we have Mazaya platform. This also can be considered as a heavy burden for these SMEs. We have also specific programs for electronic trade and the financing of these activities, electronic trade, in order to help them to increase their sales. Some of them are still growing. We have a very ambitious program for these SMEs, which are developing quickly and fastly. So the percentage of development is now beyond the 20%. And we have about 17,000 SMEs in the Saudi market, and there is a great effort exerted to assist these SMEs. So we are assisting them to access to the markets. And in the last year, about 35 companies have had their access to the Saudi market. So the means of support are diversified, and so we are paying some of the costs, about 150,000 riyals. So we are assisting and helping these institutions to face and to overcome the challenges they are facing. So they can get all these services and consultation services, and there is also a monthly consultations free of charge for the benefit of these SMEs. We have also tried to assist them in the electronic activities, and we have launched new services for them. We help them to have and to access to new information. So So also we have put at their disposal all the necessary details and information. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Governor. I, I think these are diversified services. They are taking on board the health sector and the other sectors. So they are working in very ambitious program. It is one of the طموح companies. I think they are working successfully. Now I would like to turn to Dr. Nasser Al-Gahtani. In your capacity as a regional organization, you must have a different opinion regarding these SMEs. What are the available opportunities for the SMEs in the different fields? Thank you, Engineer Nasser. Thank you for your kind invitation. I am really pleased and happy to be with you today in this very good celebration organized by SDB. So we'd like to congratulate the bank on the great achievements and successes, and also there is the support of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to the bank ISDB. So there is we have the coordination group, which a supporting group. So we are always working closely with SMEs. So when you deal with this issue of SMEs, I think before the number of these MS was 400, but now there is a great increase in the number of these SMEs, about 1,700. So there is also institutions created mainly to support the SMEs in Saudi Arabia. There are also banks which have been established to support the SMEs. All these institutions have created and have assisted in developing a clear vision for the support of the SMEs. So there is an increase in number and in the quality of work. Some legislations have been enacted in order to support the SMEs, looking for a real support to these institutions. So we develop and we support the small enterprises and the medium ones. Before now, there are sectors which have not been existed before in the Saudi Arabia. So young people have the opportunity to join these SMEs. We have projects regarding the food security in Saudi Arabia. This is a brand and this is a new industry. We are producing about 5%. 95% are exported as agricultural product. So also we have allowed the SMEs to import coffee. So now it is one of the products that can be exported and not imported. These are opportunities available for the SMEs. We don't have to stop at the percentage of 95%. We have to go beyond. So there are about 100% of products outside Saudi Arabia. These are available opportunities for SMEs, and this cannot be achieved without this clear vision developed. Now we can move to the digital in 24 hours. Now what we need is the issue of insurance. So they have to be insured against any accidents. You know, so you know there are also challenges for financing some fields like agriculture. We have to protect SMEs through the insurance. It is important also all the activities should be so we have to agree and to transform all these efforts into products from the local products. Or we have also what we call the Middle East Initiative, about an amount of 9 billion. We have to develop the seeds and the plants. We have to develop the technology as well, mainly for the big institutions and enterprises, because we consider SMEs as the engine of the economy. SMEs are the engine of the economy. We need today we need an increase in the number of SMEs. Thanks to this vision, we have developed a great number of SMEs. So there are new fields, there are new domains for these SMEs to work. In 2030, we hope that we can reach the percentage of 80%. This will give more opportunities to develop this business for the
أعطت فرص كثيرة وما فيه عذر للشباب والشابات.
The nurseries also are taken on board. We need financing from the banks. They have to know that the funding of SMEs, it is not only a social responsibility, but an economical one. So we have allocated 5% to assist these SMEs. We need the specialized banks to support and to push forward the work of the SMEs. We need to make the issue of financing accessible and sustainable. And thank you for your kind attention. Thank you, Doctor. He said that they don't ask for assistance, or they don't consider it as an independent SMEs. They know that, and they believe these institutions need to be supported. This is what I have tried to explain. I may have comments to make. From the new promising fields with regard the trade in services. Now we have to think about the way how to finance the trade in services. We have talked or mentioned the Saudi coffee. So the Saudi company for coffee is exerting efforts in this field. They're preparing the firms and to prepare the infrastructure of these firms. Some of the micro businesses need assistance and help from the beginning. They need also supplementary support provided by the different institutions in order to assist these SMEs. Taking into consideration this context, the following question is to engineering. The international institutions have the expertise, a lot of expertise, rich expertise with regard to a number of sectors and a number of states. What about the long and rich Islamic experience in this field? What is the role of the international financing institutions with regard to the SMEs? Thank you, Nasser. I think with regard to what have been said, our role as development institutions can be looked into in 5 axes. We have to empower these institutions to access to the markets and to get the necessary financing, and also empower these institutions to develop the SMBs and to provide solutions which fit to all these SMEs. There is also a very important issue, the issue of capacity building for these MEs, mainly the administrative capacities. Some of them, they have a very simple idea and has a very small amount of money, but he needs to know how to manage what they have. Sometimes people start these activities, but later they realize that they need to restart on new basis. We have started by financing the coffee. When we started to finance them, we realized that they were still working according to the old methods without any innovation. So we have started to think about the soil mapping, and we have realized that they cannot benefit from our efforts. So we have developed a program to enable these companies or these institutes to be acquainted with the new practices. Now we have more than one center in Malaysia, and a lot of farmers have benefited, thousands of farmers have benefited from these facilities. There are 4 or 5 common challenges, but when the country develops, problems will less. and they can export how they can export to the African markets, how can they export to the Asian markets, and the local product. We have been to Burkina Faso once. So the rejections of finance demands, the percentage was about 75% in Burkina Faso. As my colleagues have said, we need well-established and studied projects. We have also a national corporation assigned with the role of development of these SMEs. We have started the implementation of this program in order to enable these SMEs to benefit from the finance plans. So the SMEs should be able to benefit from these resources. Now the percentage of rejections has decreased. This is a great achievement. We have to enable these SMEs, we have to empower these SMEs to play their role in the economic of the country. I hope, as my Dr. Nasser has already said, we have to take into consideration the needs of these SMEs. So they receive great attention and great support in Saudi Arabia. Even if they face problems, they must find the necessary consultations. So we have to look to issues in a global way, not we are trying to develop the whole economy. Last word, we have also to opt for the assessment of these SMEs. How can we develop new strategies for supporting the SMEs?
From the international SMEs to national institutions, represented His Excellency Dr. Saad Rabia and the Saudi import-export. One of the challenges that are being faced by the SMEs is to getting financing. Despite this fact, there is a great progress that took place regarding the share of the financing for the SMEs from the local banking system. The last report that was issued for the follow-up of the implementation of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 is the high rate of the percentage provided by the banks to the SMEs, from 2% in 2016 to about 8% in 2023. But the target by 2030 is to be 20%. The question that we direct to you, Your Excellency, what are the financing solutions that would enable the SMEs to reach and access international markets? Thank you, Engineer Nasser. We have an engineering response to that question. The most important, before we speak about solutions, we speak of challenges that are posed by our brothers in this meeting in order to confront the SMEs that are confronted by the SMEs. Financing, which is one of the most important challenges, as engineer had said, it is reaches 75 to 80% of demands according to international statistics, the rejection of the demands by this very important economic sector. The second challenge that is confronted by those institutions is information or knowledge, financial, administrative knowledge, and governance. And the third challenge is propagation and the expansion that faces those corporations. Those three challenges leads to the lack of continuation of activities of those corporations. A rate of 3 years, which is the life of half of those SMEs, the small and medium-sized enterprises. The bank, as a development bank, has studied those challenges and has started to put solutions to those problems directly from the bank or in cooperation with the different financing institutions like enterprises of the KFC and others. As for the financing, 30% of our customers belong to the SMEs. In addition to this, we have worked with the empowerment of the kafala programs and the local companies with insurance lines, 1.5 million riyals in the first quarter of last year, and it is being carried out until the present time. And we carried out our duties and our work while have direct financing from the banks and through the different development enterprises through kafala or commercial banks in the kingdom. In addition to this, the agreements that we have signed today that are directed to the SMEs in Saudi Arabia and in Egypt, we signed a few months ago another agreement between the bank and the IFGC and the Pakistani bank for the same objective in order to meet and fill that gap. Secondly, information or knowledge. I think that the agreement that we have signed speaks of itself. We have enterprises, we have establishments that are empowering, as Dr. Sami has said, to find solutions to be submitted, and the different nurseries, the visiting of different establishments and the environment that is provided by the different establishments to empower the SMEs so that they would be able to develop and propagate and carry out their duties. We have expanded in our agreements that were concluded with Egypt, for instance, and Pakistan. In the future, we'll have more agreements. All this helps the enterprises to spread internationally, and this would greatly help us to stand steadfast towards the challenges and the different changes that are being confronted in the markets locally and internationally. With the will of God, we will be able to continue our work for more than 3 years and more. Thank you, Your Excellency. It is quite clear that there are great efforts that are exerted by the Saudi Import-Export Bank and are reflected in the figures that you have mentioned. 30% of the customers of your bank are from the sector of the SMEs, and $1.5 billion riyals are directed towards the SMEs. This contributes naturally to the realization of one of the objectives for the vision, the increase in export for non-oil products by the SMEs, and this contributes in the realization of other targets for Vision 2030 for the kingdom. Here, I want to add the basic objective of the bank that any export endeavor should not fail for the lack of financing or for lack of knowledge. This includes the enterprises, the SMEs, big ones and small ones at the same time. Since we are in the field of financing, the question is directed with His Excellency the Governor. What are the solutions that with which you contribute by the enterprises and would help the SMEs in order to overcome the problem of the big problem of financing? Thank you, my brother Nasser. We have carried several steps in that direction in order to meet the gap in the financing field in the light of the government support for those two sectors, we have taken steps that are quite clear in the partnership of 2023 agreements reached $52 billion, $10 billion from the social bank that were used for the portfolio of the SMEs. We focus on our strategies and partnership and through debts and investments that are directed to the SMEs. And we had a week for the financing of those enterprises where all sectors take part, including the central bank and commercial corporations, all that is related to funding and financing, including many development programs, benefit about 400,000 customers virtually and in person. There was a positive result in the development of those enterprises and the size of the facilities provided to the SMEs from commercial banks and financing companies, $267 billion at the end of 2020, and with a growth of 22% compared to the year 2020, according to reports issued by the central bank. The new investment system for the SMEs in the kingdom reached a record figure last year, more than $1,083,000, with an increase representing 33% as compared to the year 2022, and according to the report issued by the Saudi investment company in partnership. Thank you, Honorable Governor. To be honest, these are very favorable figures that are developing year after year. This is the development that's taking place in the field of SMEs and the different tools available for those enterprises from all the national active parties. That leads us to another question, Director Dr. Nasser. Also, your vision as a development organization working in the kingdom and outside of the kingdom, out of your experience in the development field, how can the government circles and the private sector and international institutions cooperate together in order to increase the empowering of the SMEs within the framework of the 2030 vision in Saudi Arabia? Well, I think we are lucky in the kingdom. We have engineers, and you are all engineers together. The engineer of the vision has clarified giving a priority to the SMEs when they say the contribution of the national economy rising from 20% to 30%, and the exports, the non-oil export, from 16 to 30%. This is a clear vision that there is an imposition for the role to be gained internationally. We used to work in the SMEs at the Sustainable Development Goals. The problem is that they did not realize during the past year two factors, nationalization and coordination. From our viewpoint, we must localize our manpower so that we will be able to underline and take part and be able to export it to the outside. Secondly, coordination in the efforts that are being exerted. It is quite clear today when we speak about the vision. Since 2016, we are speaking about 10 years. We have to see accomplishments, achievements, but it is quite clear that this matter will realize according to our benefits from the different relations with international institutions for the networking that we, and in partnership with the engineer of Summit of the SMEs. The first meeting was held in Jordan, and the second was in Morocco with ESCA and ESCWA, and we were confident that the SMEs in Saudi Arabia have become something from somewhere we had to learn from, and this was clear in the Morocco conference. It's an opportunity to gain globally and to go out internationally at the international level. The SMEs have to work locally, and we are glad that we have the export fund that finances the exports and the imports at the same time. For this reason, we have to localize and to educate. It is very important in the field of entrepreneurship. We train the youth in a week or 2 weeks, males or females. They were students for 4 years in the universities, and the universities should respond to the vision by laying curricula. For instance, we have an open university. We have an entrepreneurship in the curricula, a subject that is to be entrepreneurship and to innovate, not only in the universities, but everybody in the systematic thinking of an university. I believe that the networking and the different assistance submitted provide us with an opportunity. And we are here in an ISD bank. We have to underline that vision, not through our accomplishments that we feel in Saudi Arabia have become a model that should be exported to the outside world. We were supposed to help other countries to learn how to change their vision. We have engineers, females and males in the kingdom. I believe that the vision totally should be considered by all and take the SMEs into consideration. Financing should be considered clearly and with real support. And I think I believe that the financing exists, but we need further financing so that the private sector can undertake a greater role in contributing to carrying out the vision in a clear manner so that the kingdom would have food security that exists today. And this is a very important role. Today we have to face climate, food security, employment. Those are challenges that we face. The SMEs are the solution. And this is why we have to take the subject of this seriously. When we should not ignore this. There is a very important matter that others take big companies for farmers. We will regret on 2050 because a small farmer or a small fisherman will be able to preserve the area that he lives, the environment that he has, his climate. Today in CAP, what do we want? We want to restore our proper climate. Those are the farmers, the peasants, that should be supported in a better manner, provide them with credit, for instance. Not only those small, we should subsidize them. They contribute in the planting of a tree, in irrigating it, and making use of it. With the different policies that are laid down among us should have the priority to help the SMEs. They need more balances. They should have a priority, real support. And today we have males and females that have to realize and spread the awareness. We need more efforts for boys and girls, for the youth, to whom do they resort? Dr. Hani said that the youth do not know where to get advice. They need to study in the universities. We need to have an open university to support the youth. In Bahrain, we find university government a girl who was in the second year received the credit, and she joined the open university, and now she has 4 shops in Bahrain and Saudi. This is one kind of the entrepreneurship. Those are kind of examples. In Saudi Arabia has a lot of models for this. We have this in Gizan, among the small peasants, the production of coffee, the production of mangoes. Everywhere today, we want to provide them with the logistic and the service with which they be able to sell, and to export. For the production of mangoes, it's an agricultural product, and for this is where the SMEs have great opportunities, or reverses, and the media has clearly indicate the step to start small and micro and to develop. And what is shameful is to fail. And if you fail, you have to start and begin twice or thrice. Thank you, Mr. Nasser. This is a very important point, namely to transfer reverse information. Today, Saudi Arabia has now a store of knowledge that will join in the outside world and to exchange it with the outside world and to follow up the implementation of strategic plans at the level of the SMEs. The success stories should be joined and exchanged, and there should be some kind of professional rationalization by the entrepreneurs who have overcome that stage and who has become successful. For the entrepreneurs who are in the beginning of that stage, I believe that the governor has a command to make. I have a small intervention to make. As regards to universities, if we give an example of the Silicon Valley, for all the projects that were born out of the Silicon Valley as the result of the university activities, MIT and others, this subject in the Saudi market is quite late because the majority of university graduate those students to be in the market and not the holders of employment or the owners of employment. We have to change the ideas in the field of entrepreneurship. We started with the universities that are cooperative. We started in different elements in the different kingdom, and we applied a model for the subject of entrepreneurship that was initiated more than one university, and we started in the secondary stage before the university levels, and we applied this in 7 schools, and we have found that the results of that project was a number of projects. And when we applied this with the university, and we introduced the private sector, and that was operating in the university. It is a specialized medical university, and it is not in Riyadh. Out of 12 projects, the operator had 4 companies taking part, those 4 corporations with great potentials and started investment. Hence, we had 1 project that we started, and there is great movement in that field, and we are developing greatly. And I want to praise what has taken place, and this is a method that we have to focus on. Thank you, Honorable Governor. In order to be interactive in this session, taking into consideration that we have at least 5 minutes before we end our meeting, we will give time for 1 or 2 questions from the hall, from the room. Please introduce yourself and direct your question briefly.
Fahim Al-Hamid. I am Fahim Al-Hamid. In fact, I pretend that I am the most recent entrepreneur. I believe that being an interpreter is not associated with an age, a particular age. I have entered this field 12 years before, and I'm old, but I feel I am now young because of the business. There is a changing concept of entrepreneurship. The second thing, my question is very simple. My question addressed to Ustaz Al-Husseini. I would like to refer to what Jadwa has said with regard to the official published information. According in conformity to 2020-2030 vision, in particular, from 20% to 25%, according to Vision 2020 and 2030. Now 8 years have passed. Do we think, are we about to reach this number? This is my question. I would like to thank Engineer Al-Gahtani, an engineer who have participated with us in Morocco. We look forward to see them again in Morocco. What about the target? Thank you for your intervention. So sometimes we don't take into consideration the issue of age in the field, in the business field. So now people are attracted by these projects. So the trade families in Saudi Arabia, they continue to work in this field. No, we have to make this instead of looking for jobs, they can continue what their families have already initiated. And as Saad Al-Ghaswi, we have reached 90%. If you talk or refer to the local product regarding the SMEs, now we are progressing. We have achieved more than 35%. With regard to the SMEs in Saudi Arabia, it constitutes 99.2% of the total economic activities in Saudi Arabia. According to the last annual report, in all transparencies, there are the objectives and how to implement these objectives. So now we are looking for a last word from Your Excellencies. We can take more question. I am Dr. Hassan. I am director of the program of SMEs. I am really pleased. I would like to raise a question. Is there any possibility to integrate these SMEs in Saudi Arabia with the other SMEs in the Arab countries and to reinforce and to establish a cooperation between these SMEs in Saudi Arabia and the other Arab countries? What is your vision with regard to this integration and this cooperation? Thank you. I think we have tackled this issue, but we can listen. Thank you very much for your question. I think this is the objective behind the signing of the agreement. In order to enable the SMEs to extend globally and to increase their capacity to export. And other agreements will follow in this regard. We are looking for enabling the SMEs to reach countries, the member countries of the ISDB, and to increase their information with regard to the real needs in the Islamic markets and the member countries of the OIC. And this is one of our main objectives of this panel. Thank you. I have benefited a lot from the available information, but we have to look at it from another angle. There is a real change in the general culture, mainly in the field of recruitment of entrepreneurs. When we graduate, our wish, our hope was to be an engineer or a doctor. This was the only available opportunity either to be an engineer or a doctor. So you have to go to study and to come back to be recruited in one of the relative ministries. Now, with the new atmosphere, with the new world, the new culture of entrepreneurship, now there are so many available solutions in the field of education. So we have advanced in technology. We are using perfectly the internet. When we went to America, the registration for students was through the radio. So there is a program inspired by Aramco in the eastern part of the kingdom. After 1 year, I met someone and asked him, "What are you doing after the graduation?" He said that we are working in the field of financing via the technology. I said to him, now you are starting. How did you manage to do this? Now his company is one which is availing solutions to a number of problems. Issues have changed. The culture has changed as well. No, we hope that the youth should think out of the box. As he said, now this is a general culture. So the government cannot recruit or have all this, but they have to offer opportunities for them. They have to profit from these programs, and we are here to support and to assist them through